This is the West Michigan Sports Show, presented by the United States Air Force. Now, here's your host, Brandon Wirth.
Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the West Michigan Sports Show, a holiday early exclusive release here on News Radio WBRN. Brandon, we're joining you here live here this lovely Saturday. If you're listening to us here on 96.5, 107.7, or 1460, as well as on WBRN.com and the WBRN mobile app. But for those that are audio listeners or maybe a pre-recorded listener, if you follow along on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and WBRN.com, you got an exclusive this week, a couple-day early release for the holidays. And I'll tell you why here in just a moment, but certainly grateful for all of you guys and your support of the show. And before we get into any further, I'm sure many people are going to be asking the question, will there be a show next week? There absolutely will. So you don't be worried. There won't be a bye week this week, even though there is temptation to take a holiday break. I'm going to give you guys an extra episode next week. So be sure that you stay in tune for that as we'll preview the second half of the season's upcoming in winter sports, the new year for many teams, and how that can affect a lot of the momentum going into the 2024 year. But before we do that, we'll also get to break down top 5 gifts to give for your holiday athletes this holiday season. I know it's almost Christmas Day, and I want to make sure that you guys have time, and especially for those that might be procrastinating, that you have an idea of what to give your athletes this holiday season. So I got my top 5 list of things you should get for your high school athletes. And don't worry, I'm not going to break the bank on you. They're affordable, they're valuable, and they're versatile. Those are the 3 categories, or I should say 3 elements within the category of gifts that I chose for this segment. So stay tuned for that. We'll get scores around the league and more coming up after this. But before we do that, pay the bills. Thank those that make this podcast and broadcast possible. Those include Mecosta Osceola Career Center, the Mecosta Osceola Transit Authority, Paris Auto Sales and Service at Big Rapids, Ultra Care Big Rapids, Quality Car and Truck Repair, the Schuberg Insurance Agency, and Johnson's Automotive. Thank you all for your support of the West Michigan Sports Show. Without further ado, let's get into the scores around the league and more. We'll go back to December 15th. That was last Friday. We weren't able to break down some of those scores, obviously, because we had to record early last week, so I want to go back and get those to you in case you missed out. Big win for Big Rapids. They take down the Pirates, revenge 2 losses from a year ago. They win 74-49, a dominant 25-point win for the Cardinals. White Cloud and Central Montcalm go toe-to-toe in overtime, and it's White Cloud game-winning layup with 6 seconds to go gets the 72-70 victory for the Indians on the road at the Hornets. Reed City holds off Grant on the road 67-49. It appears Coach Walsh's team is the team to beat this year in the CSAA as they continue their conference roll. 60-54 win for Newaygo at Kent City as the Lions earn another road victory on the season. And Molly Stanwood gets their first victory of the season. They win 49-21 over the Wildcats of Lakeview at Lakeview. Tri-County and Chip Hills gave us pretty much what we can call an early honorable mention of Game of the Year. Double OT thriller, 75-70. Jordan Hansen's 40-point performance gets Chippewa Hills a win at home over the Vikings, 75-70, as mentioned, the final score there. As well as girls hoops also taking place last Friday. A ton of games on the docket. Central Montcalm holds off White Cloud 52-25 at home, as well as Big Rapids puts a thumping on Comstock Park at Comstock Park, 60-25, the final score as well. Shout out to Coach Jessica Heiss, earning her 200th win over this past week. So congratulations to her. Reed City and Grant in a nail-biter. It's the Tigers over the Counts, 48-46 final score there. Kent City holds off Newaygo at home, 32-22 in a defensive slugfest. Molly Stanwood holds off Lakeview to complete the sweep over the Cats, 65-35, as well as the final game. Tri-County gets a road win against Chippewa Hills, 43-39, your final. There was also wrestling in action for Central Montcalm Lakeview at St. Louis. No scores reported, but we'll sure to look in and get those scores to you whenever we can. December 18th, there was one lone game each side, and it had to do with the Lakeview Wildcats. The boys fall to Merrill, 49-27 in boys basketball action. On the women's side, Wildcats get their biggest win of the season, winning by 52 against former CSAA foe Hesperia there in non-conference action. There's also a big win for Reed City, taking down Wyoming Lee at their Assembly Dual Wrestling meet. Super cool. They had the student body able to watch in the stands during school hours later on in the school day. Certainly seemed like a good crowd on hand, and such a cool idea there from my alma mater. December 19th in basketball action, there was a couple close games, especially on the docket. Tri-County falls to Central Montcalm at home, 51-48. The Hornets bounce back for a W. Moly Stanwood goes toe-to-toe with Kent City at home, but fall to the Eagles 53-45. Grant gets the road victory in the rivalry of M37, 73-66, the final score there. Reed City hammers Chippewa Hills, 74-32, your final score from Reed City, as well as the game I got to cover on WBRN, 61-48. Big Rapids takes down White Cloud at White Cloud in boys basketball action. In the girls' side of things on December 19th as well, the Montcalm Hornets continue their hot start to the season, 61-34 over Tri-County. And how about another honorable mention for early game of the year nominee? Moly Stanwood beats Kent City at home in one of the greatest games we've seen over the years. Triple overtime it took for the Mohawks to take down the Eagles, 51-49 in triple overtime, the final score there. Newaygo falls to Grant at home, 40-19, the final score, win for the Tigers, as well as Reed City dominates Chip Hills 67-16, just an overall dominant Tuesday for the Coyotes over the Warriors. And finally, Big Rapids gets their biggest win of the season, 59-18 over the Indians of White Cloud. Also some games coming up as well. We'll get to those preview in just a minute, but also some wrestling scores as well to recap as well from this past week, especially those reported from the South Haven Invitational. Reed City gets some victories over Dowagiac as well as Hudsonville Unity Christian Stevensville Lakeshore. They do lose to Wayland, the champion of the tournament, by 2. A really tough loss there against Wayland. And as well, they get the win over South Haven. Those are the final scores there in wrestling action back from December 16th on that Saturday. Also had some wrestling. No scores quite reported from Big Rapids' trip to Mount Pleasant, where they had to face off there against Mount Pleasant, Gaylord, and Greenville. We'll try to get the scores for you, as well as the Joe Lauren tournament at Chippewa Hills against Ogama Heights, Shelby, Hesperia, as well as some of those other schools. We'll try to get scores from that meet, as well as some other teams were in action at Hart for a jamboree back on last Saturday, as well as the Tri. No scores still reported there yet, but we'll keep researching and see if we can find that for you coming up on next week's episode. Some upcoming matchups here as we get to kind of preview overall, as this will be just released before the Thursday slate of games here. Beal City will host Central Montcalm, who will travel to Beal City. That's going to be a really fun basketball game. We'll see how that one turns out there for the Hornets in non-conference action. Big Rapids host Benzie Central. I'll be on the call for you this evening if you're listening to this live right after the episode release at 6:40 on WBRN. Kent City hosts Holton in former CSAA Silver foes. Will battle it out there in Kent City. Lake City hosts Moly Stanwood. I think that's going to be a really fun basketball game. Within 10 points, I'm sure the final outcome will be, we'll see who gets home with the W in boys hoops, as well as the final game, White Cloud hosting Hesperia in home action. Those games all 7 o'clock. The lone 2 girls games, Central Montcalm hosting Beal City, as well as Mason County Central hosting White Cloud. There in girls action, there will also be 2 games on December 22nd for both boys and girls, and that will be Blanchard Montebello hosting Lakeview in both boys and girls action, 5:25 and 7 o'clock start times there, as well as Grant boys will be at home against Ravenna, 7 o'clock start time there, and the girls for Grant will be traveling to Cedar Springs, 7 o'clock there on the 22nd. As well, there will also be some tournament action on December 23rd as well as December 29th in Reed City, and as well, there's going to be a tournament, I believe, also at Aquinas College that we'll see Newaygo take on a couple teams this weekend, as well as we'll break down those on next week's episode. There were 2 final scores here that we can break down for you from girls action, actually, as of last night. If you're listening to this right after immediate release, Big Rapids and Benzie battling it out in girls hoops. The Cardinals get the win over the Huskies 40-17, as well as Grant falls to Spring Lake 62-37 on the road. Those are your scores to report from MHSAA action. So obviously, as we take a look here at the standings in boys hoops right now, going into the Thursday and Friday games, obviously this will change as we go into next week. We'll break down that more in depth on next week's episode. Reed City leads the way 4-0, 5-1 overall. Behind comes Grant and Newaygo. They're both 3-1 in conference play, 5-2 and 5-3 respectively overall this season. Big Rapids, White Cloud, Kent City, each 2-1. Big Rapids at the highest total win tally, 5-2. White Cloud 4-2, and Kent City 2-4 overall, as well as Chip Hills at a 500 2-2 slate start so far. Central Montcalm, Moy Stanwood, each 1-3, and Lakeview and Tri-County looking for their first CSAA wins of the season in boys hoops. So there's the updated standings there for you on the boys side, as we'll take a look as well on the girls side. A little bit more of a shakeup so far, but so far it's no doubt the leader right now is Moy Stanwood, undefeated in the conference, followed by Grant as well as 3-0. They only have one loss on the overall record, while Moy Stanwood still has none. Central Montcalm 4-1 on the season so far, 2-1 though in conference play. That puts them in third, as well as Reed City right behind in fourth at 2-1 and 2-2 respectively. Kent City, Big Rapids each 1-1 on this conference season so far. Lakeview, Newaygo, White Cloud each 1-2, and Tri-County with a 1-3 start. Chip Hills still looking for that first victory in CSAA play. That's a rundown of the CSAA basketball standings. We'll break down wrestling as well more in depth on next week's show. We'll take a quick break. We'll pay some bills, and we'll bring it back with the top 5 affordable gifts to get your high school athletes this holiday season, and especially for those that have still procrastinated. Don't go anywhere. You're on News Radio WBRN. Alrighty, folks, it's the second half of the show, and it's time that all of those that have been waiting for, that have procrastinated this holiday season, 5 gifts to give to your high school athlete. They're both affordable, they're valuable, and they're versatile. And that's something that I especially want to make sure, because there's a lot of gadgets, there's a lot of gizmos that are out on the market that really cost an arm and a leg to give to your athletes. And as much as they're great, they're beneficial, obviously, or else they wouldn't sell. There's other options out there that are more affordable, they're more versatile, they're more easy to use, and especially they're more specifically tailored to the high school level, not professional collegiate, that are looking for the next up-and-coming thing to get to that next level to give themselves an advantage, right? So 5 things that are affordable, they're valuable, and they're versatile to get to your son or daughter for this upcoming sports season, and especially beyond, no matter if they're in high school, no matter if they're in college, or if they're just hobby basketball or football or runners or any type of sports competitor. There's always something out there that you can give them that they can use to be able to be better, be able to be more fit, healthy, so on and so forth. And I think there are so many great options out there to get for my top 5 list. All right, let's kick it off. Number 5 is a water bottle. Now, hold your horses before you immediately go to the store, buy a $5 water bottle, and say that I told that athlete to get you a $5 water bottle. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. I'm saying get them the right water bottle. And you might be thinking, okay, what is the right water bottle for an athlete? Well, for one, as much as it might be tempting to get something that might be insulated, it might be made of stainless steel, for example. It could be a hydro flask that are up to $50. I'm not necessarily saying to go get that kind of a water bottle. You're looking for more of a sports type of water bottle. Now, you can get up in as high of grade as you can with Gatorade. They always make the GX kind of water bottles that can go all the way up to, feels like $30 if you buy the right ones. The ones that have the squirt top to it that make quick bursts of water, those are ones you really are looking for. And you might be thinking, what is the difference? Now, obviously, water intake during practice, during activity is super important, something I've learned a lot about during my time in running. When you have a water bottle that might be necessarily like a Nalgene, which is one that I personally use a lot during running trips, or if I'm going out to work outside, or those kind of examples where you're taking in a lot of water. Now, if you're in an activity like basketball practice, or if you're in some sort of a really short sprinted sport, you're not going to be trying to just absolutely chug water during your breaks. You want those quick bursts of water just so that you're staying hydrated, but you're not filling up your stomach to the point where it's sloshing around, right? So those quick squeeze water bottles are your friend. Under Armour, Gatorade, Adidas always make them. You can find them not only at sporting goods stores, Walmart and Meijer's, they sell them very frequently, so you can go there and find them. Some people have asked, would it be something that you would get with a straw? I personally, I'm not a fan of a straw, but obviously, if an athlete is a favorite of a straw, maybe you can go for it that way. That's also more of a quick intake type of style water bottle. So that would be one that I'd recommend. Number 5 on my list, the water bottle. Not only that, a short squeeze sports water bottle is the one that you should go to at the number 5 spot. Number 4 on my list, we'll stay in the beverage department. This is an underrated one. A blender, I think, is a really, really nice gift. Now, there's going to be times where you are looking at where you are eating and that it is not necessarily the best from an athlete's perspective. And yes, my hand is raised as I'm saying this. There are always times where you can improve your nutrition. And the number one thing that a lot of people and a lot of athletes like myself argue is it doesn't taste good. Or it's something that I just don't want to eat every single day. And it's something that I just really don't want to spend the time and being able to eat a plate of fruit. Now, if you take strawberries, bananas, blueberries, all those great antioxidant fruits, and you put it into a blender, now you got yourself a nice smoothie. And who doesn't like smoothies, right? Those things are super important. So being able to get a blender is a huge advantage for an athlete, right? They make smaller blenders, especially for kind of more, not necessarily for athletes, but just in a lot smaller of a formats. This is a little bit more of an expensive gift than some of the other ones on my list. You can get something like a Ninja or a Magic Bullet. You can get the very smaller size ones for, somewhere between $30. If you really want to get exorbitant, you can go up to $60 with some of them that have different settings as far as what you want to blend together. But for athletes especially, keeping your fruit, your vegetable intake up is certainly important. And not only that, especially, but protein as well. Being able to make protein shakes, being able to put in some things that help make it taste better, put in peanut butter with whey protein. That way you can buy the dry powder and you can put it together with water or milk, and you're not necessarily having to spend $20-$40 on a bunch of pack of shakes that you would store in your house, right? It's a lot more convenient. It's a lot more easier to do that way in that process. So a blender would be number 4 on my list of gifts here this holiday season. Number 3 on the list, this one is, I think, especially one that is super important for a lot of the athletes that are worried about health or might be a little bit more injury prone when it comes to things just like muscle tightness and maybe necessarily spot to spot pain, as some call it in the athletic training world, would be a massage gun. Now, this one, due forewarning, will probably be the hardest to find on my list. They are available if you have a local sporting goods store near you. I know here for especially the Big Rapids area, if you go to Dunham Sports, I know they have them there. I believe they're back in the other health and wellness section. I think you can find a couple of them. If not, you can call me out on it. Maybe they moved it or maybe they discontinued it. Not sure. Last time I was there was a little while ago, but I believe they did have some at that moment of time. You can also get them on Amazon. Very, very cheap. The one that I personally own, there's a lot of really name brand ones out there, especially Theragun is the one, the peak, the top model. Those can get up to $300. The one that I personally use at the collegiate level is only $30 to $35. So you can find cheaper ones as well than that on Amazon for your athletes. And especially when it comes to just really working through pain, and especially during the holiday season when they might be training, but not necessarily in that much of a routine. You might be training a little bit harder, more time on your hands, working harder, finding the spot-to-spot pain, especially throughout a season, whether it's necessarily a really tight quad or if it's something in your shoulder or your neck area. A Theragun is a great tool to use to be able to work out the kinks, as you would call it, and be able to work through muscle tightness and all of those things. Obviously, a roller and some other great options like a tennis ball are really good options as well, but they don't do it justice like Theragun does. So a massage gun would be number 3 on my list. The smaller, probably the better for travel purposes, especially if you have an athlete that travels frequently in the high school levels or even well beyond that, in AAU club examples as well during the summer. So it's a long-lasting gift, and especially the ones that are battery-powered, you can take it and charge it wherever you need to go. Number 2 on my list, this is one that especially can get really expensive. Doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. The number 2 on the list is headphones. Simple gift, right? Now, when I say headphones, there's obviously a lot of different options, right? You have the over-the-ear, the Dr. Dre Beats type of headphones. You obviously have earbuds that can be wired. They might be wireless, Bluetooth connected. There's a lot of different options, and especially with the athlete, the ones that I personally own are over-the-ear Bluetooth ones, and I find that they are very secure, and that's why I pick them the most. I'm not going to go recommend that you go out and buy Dr. Dre Power Beats, for example, but what I would recommend is there's always great options as well at Dunham's, at Myers, at Walmart, at electronic stores near you. There's always options for those within the 20, maybe even less than that. I think you can get some up to 15. That might have a little bit shorter of a battery life, but there's a lot of great options. There's a lot of other off-brands, so you're not paying the same price, but you're still getting as good, if not even arguably better quality, in that $15 to $40 range. But those kind of headphones, those are sometimes the motivators, especially, let's be honest, over a holiday break, over a break from school. Maybe you want to get some work in over the weekend when you're not competing or you're off from your sport. Even having some kind of music there, especially to get you through some of those really tough lifts, some of those really tough, not necessarily, I'm not saying you should use them in your school's practice, your sanctioned practice, don't do that. But if you're doing it something on your own, you're shooting hoops in the driveway, you're going out for a short run on the weekend, having those headphones and that music, especially some that are Bluetooth connected to music, is a really, really nice way to be able to have that motivation to go out, do the work, get better as an athlete, and especially can help you when you're just not feeling like working out at that moment of time. And so that's certainly a great boost for you. That's number 2. Number 1, the granddaddy of them all. It's not going to sound as exciting to some of the younger audience listeners, but parents, you're going to love me for this idea, for one that I especially have learned over the years and I've neglected for a lot. A good duffel bag and backpack is certainly needed for an athlete. Now, the biggest reason why, everybody knows that gym bags are stanky, really stanky. They're no fun to wash. They're always kind of a pain to carry around because, once you open it up, and especially if you're near someone that is really sensitive to smell, it can be hard to own a gym bag and making sure that it's clean. Now, you can get those air fresheners for your duffel bag that can keep it long-term, right? So it can be a long-term investment when it consider body odor. Because the last thing you want to do is throw sweaty clothes in there, leave it over there for 5 days, and then it gets smelly, then it gets gross, and then you have to put it through the washing machine 3-4 times. Then you might end up hurting the seams. There's just a whole way of doing it. But the last thing you want to do is put your dirty gym clothes in your school bag and have you homework turned in to your teacher with sweat dripping off of the paper from your shorts that you had put on yesterday from basketball practice that are still wet. Getting a separate backpack or duffel bag for a gym class, for an athlete in training, for their practice, for their sport, super crucial. You can get big, small, medium size, anywhere in between, from anywhere from $30 to up to even $75 if you're really looking for the technologically advanced ones. But those are certainly the biggest benefactors for athletes to be able to have and carry all of your equipment with you. Super important at the end of the day. That's going to do it for this holiday edition. Stay tuned next week here on the West Michigan Sports Show. We'll break down everything heading into 2024. But until then, we'll see you later here on News Radio WBRN.